Welcome back to the Canada Specialist webinar series. I'd like to introduce Sean Lane from Travel Yukon, based here in Sydney. Welcome, Sean. Over to you to tell us all about the Yukon.
Thanks very much, Nathan, and hello again to everyone. Great to be here. Let's get stuck into the Yukon. Many of you have heard about the Yukon before, but for those of you who haven't, I'll give you a quick introduction and orientation about where we are located. So the Yukon is in the north of Canada, right next to Alaska. As you can see there from the map, we do have great air links, which I'll jump into here. Talking at 2.2 hours from Vancouver, 15-hour flight, obviously, from Australia to Vancouver, and then the 2-hour, 20 minutes flight to Whitehorse. And there's a number of also gateway cities as well, which offer flights from Canada into Whitehorse and other parts of the Yukon. Also road access as well and cruise as well. A bit of orientation in terms of the major centres in the Yukon. Whitehorse is the gateway, but also we have Dawson City, Carcross, Kluane National Park are very important and popular areas for tourism. Whitehorse. It is known as the wilderness city. City is a bit of a strange term though, because it's basically a town. It is very scenic, as you can see there from the photo in the background. It is the location of a lot of our tourism product in terms of our hotels, lodges, which are usually about 30 minutes out of town, a number of sightseeing products as well, a lot of museums, and it really is a great base to explore the Yukon. A lot of people will go to the Yukon for the Northern Lights. It's what it's most famous for. A bit of an information on how that all works. So the season, August to mid-April. We do recommend 3 to 4 nights because, as you can imagine, the Northern Lights come out of an evening. The tours, if you book on a tour, will usually start about 10 p.m. and finish at 2 a.m. So it's a big evening. It's also, there's not a guarantee that you'll see the Northern Lights on your first night. So if you book a trip to the Yukon for at least 3 to 4 nights, number one, you've got a great chance of seeing the Northern Lights. And number two, yourselves or your clients won't be too tired to do things during the day as well. So it gives you a bit of an opportunity to do things during the day and also do, maybe 2 or 3 nights of aurora viewing as well. Have a number of tours, most are in Whitehorse, but there's also now some in Dawson City. One of the things we do is we have viewing sites. They're about 20 minutes out from town. It's a great way to see the Northern Lights because everything's organised. You have really experienced guides who will tell you about the aurora. They'll help you with photography. They have heated yurts. And so it makes it a much more comfortable experience to actually go see the aurora because it can actually be minus 20 or minus 30 degrees Celsius out there. Also at our lodge stays as well is a great way to see the Northern Lights. Now jumping into the lodges. So in the Yukon, we have 3 to 4 star accommodation. We have a new 4-star Hyatt Place, which is opening in late August in Whitehorse, which is quite exciting. That is now open for bookings. Also, a number of our wilderness lodges and cabins, hostels and camping. Now, we do have a new lodge brochure. It's been updated for 2025. It's a great way to sort of orientate where the lodges are located. Each lodge has its own page, and it'll give you run through of all the facilities, how many rooms they have, and how the meals work, whether they actually have a restaurant or whether there's self-catering available and so forth, and transfers and all the different things you may have questions on. So the link is there, but we'll also share the link via email a little bit later. Okay, some of the activities you might want to do in the Yukon. Dog sledding, obviously very, very popular. We also have, and not many people realize this, we actually have a snow resort in the Yukon. So it's about 15 minutes drive from Whitehorse. It's called Mount Sima. It's not a huge resort, but we do have 15 runs and the longest one is 2.5 kilometers long. 7 terrain parks. One of the key things, and I think this is fantastic, is it's affordable for families. So last season, we talked about $69 for an adult for a full day lift ticket. We also have a ski school and a snowboard school and equipment hire and so forth. So it's a great way to actually do a couple of days snow activities, ski or snowboard, as part of a winter wonderland itinerary in the Yukon. And we also have mountain biking in the summer there. Snowmobiling and snowshoeing also incredibly popular, and ice fishing as well. It's very popular to do a snowmobiling trip, and also include ice fishing as well. And then you have some hot chocolate on the ice while you attempt to catch some fish. It's a really great experience. Eclipse Hot Springs and Spa. So this is newly renovated in the last few years. It's a beautiful way of actually relaxing in the Yukon wilderness. In wintertime, as you can see from the photo, it's got fantastic snow and forest surrounds. It really does make your trip quite special. And there's also sun lounges and a number of other facilities there. The other thing we do have at the Eclipse Hot Springs is the Yukon famous hair freezing contest, which is run in most years, depending on the weather. And yeah, it's quite an interesting experience. And it is good to know that your hair will unfreeze as soon as you dunk it back in the water. Okay, wilderness and wildlife. The Yukon is definitely all about wilderness and wildlife and nature. As you can see, some of the famous Canadian animals there, including my favorite, the bison. Glass blowing is something that we have at Whitehorse. It's a great community activity. It's a great way to meet the locals. It's also a great way to take a souvenir home. So I would encourage you, if you're visiting the Yukon, to go check out Lumen Studios. Other activities, we have a lot in the Yukon. And it's one of the great things about the Yukon is that it's not just about the Northern Lights. There's so much to do here. And just as you can see from the screen here, just a sample of some of the activities. Yukon seasons, really important. As I mentioned, it can get very cold in the Yukon. You do need to organize winter clothing rental. Many of you will already know this. The ski gear people have for skiing in Australia and New Zealand is not going to cut it when you're at -20 and -30. So the winter clothing rental is highly recommended. Summer is the exact opposite. So we actually have 24 hours of daylight at the winter solstice in June. And we can get up to 30 degrees or more in the Yukon over summer. Some of the summer activities. So it is, as I said, all about the nature. So we do have a lot of hiking, canoeing, rafting. There's a lot of canoe trips on offer, multi-day and also single day. Mountain biking's huge now. And you can rent mountain bikes from a number of different operators in town, camping, fishing, and so forth. As I mentioned about the wildlife, Yukon had 35,000 people. As you can see there, look how many animals we have in comparison. You will see wildlife. You'll be driving along the road and you might see caribou. You might even see a bear. Please do not pat them. As you can see, they look very cuddly, but they're not that friendly up close. Beyond Whitehorse. So a number of different centres which are really great to visit. Dawson City, an hour 10 minutes by flight, or you can drive there. During the summer is recommended. Winter is a much more serious endeavour to drive to Dawson City, so we don't recommend it unless you're incredibly experienced. Carcross, 50-minute drive. Kalani National Park, an hour 30 minutes there. South Klondike Highway on the way to Carcross, as a view of Emerald Lake. Carcross itself, as I mentioned, 40 minutes south of Whitehorse. It is a gateway to the White Pass and Yukon Route train, which heads to Skagway in Alaska. It also is very close to the world's smallest desert, which is a great spot to actually go and yeah, take a few photos, as well as a number of different First Nations centres and cafes and souvenirs and so forth there. Kalani National Park, 1.5 to 2 hours drive from Whitehorse. It is a fantastic place to see some of the biggest mountains in Canada, including Mount Logan, which is the tallest mountain in Canada of 5,959 meters. One of the best ways to see Kalani National Park and the St. Elias Mountains is by flight seeing. So you book a flight and then you can see this fantastic winter landscape, or of course during the summer as well. It's fantastic. Dawson City. So Dawson is one of my favorite parts of the Yukon. It's very famous for the Klondike Gold Rush, which is considered the greatest gold rush in history. Over 100,000 people visited the Yukon during that period in 1896 to try and strike it rich. It was a very tough time for a lot of people, and they heard about gold and they went, yep, this is our opportunity to secure our future for our families. Sadly, for a lot of people, it didn't quite work out that way, but you can then visit Dawson City today, and it's very much like stepping back in time. The city itself is much like stepping into the Wild West. It's as you can see, sort of a dirt, sort of sandy streets. All the buildings are, yeah, it's kind of Western style. There's a number of great tours you can do, not only on the mining and gold rush history, but also on the history of the town as well and the famous characters. So definitely recommend checking out that. And it's also a fantastic gateway to the Tombstone area. Also, just a photo here is actually because we're quite high in the north in Dawson, we're actually on permafrost. So you'll see when you go visit there, some of the buildings, the older buildings, have actually sunk because the underneath it's actually frozen even in summer. So yeah, Tombstone. So an hour and a half drive north of Dawson City. It is, as you can see from the photo here, a really spectacular place. You take the Dempster Highway, which is also quite famous, to visit this region, and it's beautiful. You can do multi-day hiking, you can do single hiking. There's lots of tours and so forth you can do in the Tombstone region. One really nice season is fall. As you can see here from the photograph, they're the fall colors at Tombstone Territorial Park. Also, you can continue north and you can end up in the Arctic Circle. So you can do a big trip. 7 to 8 days is recommended if you want to start from Whitehorse. And you can, yeah, say you visited the Arctic Circle. There's a great place. You can take a photograph there with a big sign. And it's really quite a special experience. It's not many people can claim they visited the Arctic Circle. Okay, well, that's it from me. I hope you got something out of this presentation. I'll hand it back to Nathan.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Great presentation. Well done. I just love the Yukon. I've had the pleasure of going there a number of times, different seasons, and totally concur with everything that Sean said. Love Dawson City. Love walking down the street there at midnight in summer when it's bright daylight, which really messes with your mind. Tombstone is just amazing, and I've had the pleasure of seeing the Northern Lights a couple of times up there too. So a must do. One thing you may see if anyone does sell ski holidays, we're actually working with some of the major ski operators in this market to try and get places like the Yukon added on to ski holidays for that Northern Lights experience. And we're starting to get a little bit of traction on that, which is cool. Good to hear.